What's up, Broncos country? Welcome back to the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube for the latest episode of Broncos Now. As always, I'm your host, Sydney Jones. And coming up on today's episode, head coach Sean Payton announced that quarterback Jarrett Stidham will be the starter this weekend versus the Chargers. We'll hear from both head coach Sean Payton and Jarrett Stidham coming up. Looking at the top news of the day, quarterback Jarrett Stidham was named the starter for the Broncos this Sunday versus the Chargers. We heard today from head coach Sean Payton as he detailed his decision to make the change at quarterback.
We're desperately trying to win. And sure, in our game today, there are economics and all those other things, but the number one push behind this, and it's a decision I'm making, is to, get a spark offensively. Obviously it's difficult, and all of us feel like, man, we didn't do well enough. But one of the things we saw when we signed Stidham in the off season was not only film from preseason games but regular season games, and he's a guy that I'm anxious to see play. And if I didn't feel like he gave us the chance to win, then we wouldn't be making that move. And so the irony is, obviously, is he was in a situation that many would say is very similar, and yet I would say it's somewhat different. But that's kind of where we're at with it. I spent time with Russ this morning, and he's been a pro and obviously disappointed, but all the work that goes into doing what he does or doing what they do at that position, it's difficult.
Plus, Jarrett Stidham spoke to the media today and discussed his reaction to the news.
I think I can speak for almost anybody that plays in the NFL, but your goal and objective is to always get out on the field and play, and that's what my goal has always been. That's how I've always prepared myself and so forth. And Sean brought me up in his office this morning and told me I was going to start this week. So just keep preparing like I have been my whole career and get ready to go.
Head coach Sean Payton went on to talk about what it is about Jarrett that gives him confidence he can help spark something on this offense. And Jarrett also commented on that, saying what he has to do in order to accomplish that.
He's someone who's got real good poise. He's got real good feet. You see his arm strength, decision making. Take a peek at the 49er game, or take a peek at the Chief game, or just some of those things we saw. And then obviously we get a chance to see him every day against our defense.
I mean, I don't think I need to overthink it. Just do what I'm coached to do. We have a great staff and a great group of guys around me. So I'm just going to do my job to the best of my ability, do the certain things that I need to do on each and every play, and move the ball down the field and hopefully score a lot of points and get a win.
Plus, safety Justin Simmons chimed in and talked about Jarrett getting the start this Sunday.
Anytime decisions like this are made, the first thing I think about is what could I have done better to help? And, I never want to see anyone, lose their job in a sense. And so, from my perspective, defensively, I just wish there was more, that we could have done to be able to help. And Russ has been a great teammate. He's been an amazing person, as you all know. And, this is, not the end for him by any means. And so, also with that being said, I know Stidham's going to do a great job. And, he's been doing great in practices, as you guys heard Coach Payton say. And I obviously had the chance to watch him, a little bit last year when he played with Vegas. And so, I know this, it's a tough thing. And, you hate to see it.
Jarrett also talked about getting to practice with the ones all week and how beneficial that will be.
Yeah, it's a huge benefit. I mean, I haven't taken literally any one reps the entire year, outside of a couple snaps at Detroit, 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. So, just getting a full week under my belt, with the ones, and, them getting used to me getting used to them, it's nothing but helpful the longer you can do it.
And lastly, Justin Simmons talked about how critical it will be to win these final 2 games of the season.
I don't know the percentages and whatever it looks like, but I know if we win, these next 2, the biggest one being the game against the Chargers on Sunday, we did all we could do, at this point in time right now. So, It's going to be important, too, to just end this on a positive at home. You know, there's been ups and downs throughout this season. You know, a rough start, you know, a nice little stretch of run of winning games in the middle. And I know the last few weeks haven't been great. So, you know, for us, I think ending things on the right note, you know, leaving that stadium with high hopes, you know, going into next year, I think that'll be a huge positive for us and, you know, a goal that I want to hit.
Now it's time to take a look at today's injury report. Outside linebacker Baron Browning, tight end Greg Dulcich, running back Samaje Perine, wide receiver Cortland Sutton, and running back Dwayne Washington all did not participate in practice today, while outside linebacker Nick Bonito was limited, and tackle Alex Palczewski was a full participant. Now joining me here in the Broncos podcast studio to take a more in-depth look at today's news is fellow team reporter Phil Milani. Phil, thanks for joining me today.
Sid, plenty of news to get to today.
Yes, a lot to talk about today, Phil. You know, of course, the big news being that head coach Sean Payton announced that quarterback Jarrett Stidham, he's going to be the starter this Sunday versus the Chargers. Yeah. Overall, you know, just to start, what are your reactions? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the last couple of weeks here have been disappointing results for the Broncos. Certainly losing 3 out of 4 after that 5-game winning streak kind of has put a damper on all the positivity that had been going on and all of the confidence that this team had built over the middle part of the season there. So I definitely think that there was, I guess what Sean Payton said was we're looking for a spark, you know, and he hopes that inserting Jarrett Stidham into the lineup will give a spark for this Broncos team. And, you know, losing to the Patriots definitely hurt their playoff chances. They're still technically alive, but it'll take a lot to get into the playoffs for this Broncos team. So I think now they've sort of refocused and said, look, let's just try to focus on what we can control. That's going out and playing well against the Chargers. And, you know, the offensive side of the ball needed a little bit of a spark. I think there was just too many long stretches of time during games where a lot of like 3 and outs, a lot of inability to just, you know, get a first down and extend a drive here and play a little bit of complimentary football. We saw that in that Lions game where there was a long stretch. Saw that certainly against the Patriots. The counter to that, though, is that in the fourth quarter, you know, on Christmas Eve, Russ came alive and nearly was able to pull off a huge comeback there.
Back-to-back touchdowns.
So I think that Sean put it best as like, okay, I know there's a little bit of shock that comes with this when you're talking about a player who's under contract. It's a little bit surprising, but I do think that this offense could use a little bit of a spark, and we'll see if Stidham's able to provide that for this team.
Yeah. Phil, you mentioned that spark. What are maybe your expectations for this offense with Jarrett Stidham leading the way? I mean, he had a similar situation last year with the Raiders when he came in the final 2 weeks of the season and started for them.
Yeah, and you talked to Mike McGlinchey in the locker room. Yeah. He was talking about how he was on the other side of that. He was
that 49ers game,
San Francisco at the time. Last year, the 49ers had the best defense in the NFL, and Stidham went out there and played a big game. And so I think certainly when you make a change like this, it has a ripple effect in the locker room. Yeah. And so Sean Payton was asked, hey, does making a move like this sort of just put a lot of the blame on Russell Wilson? And he was like, look, I get it. It's a quarterback. All eyes are on this guy. But really, everybody's got to play better. And he was like, I can't go out there and change all the offensive linemen. I can't go out and change all the wide receivers. So this was a move that he's hoping provides a spark. But it's certainly not just pointing the only finger at Russell Wilson. Right. He was like, everybody's got to play a little bit better. So Stidham, this is going to be his 3rd career start. Certainly played a lot in college at Auburn there, and so was a 4th-round pick for the Patriots. And then last year with Las Vegas, had a little bit of a spark there in 2 games. So certainly against the 49ers played very well. So he says that he's just going to go out there, not try to do too much, do what he knows he's capable of doing. And look, Sean Payton was not shy this offseason saying, look, we really wanted Jarrett Stidham. He was a priority in free agency. They went out and got him. And Sean was very encouraged by what he saw in those 2 games last year at the end of the regular season. So I'm intrigued. I want to see what he can do.
Absolutely.
He's a big big guy, and maybe he'll be able to do some things out there for the offense.
For sure. Going off of that, Phil, what kind of opportunity do you think this really is for Jarrett?
Well, Jarrett, was pretty honest, I think, up there, just saying, look, everybody in the NFL wants to play.
Right.
Nobody grows up to be like, hey, I want to ride the bench here.
Right.
So he's excited about this opportunity. He didn't want to get into like what it could mean for his future. He didn't want to talk too much about that. But, I don't think that you can help but think, hey, if I go out there and I play well, maybe the coaches will notice and maybe I can continue to buy more playing time. I mean, that's got to be an incentive in the back of his mind, But I do think that he was honest earlier when he was talking about, hey, everybody wants to play, and now this is his chance. And the last time he played was all the way in the preseason. So he's got to make the most of the practice reps during the week here. And
good to practice with the ones all week.
Just make sure that everybody is on the same page, because that's been a constant theme this year for this Broncos offense is communication. Earlier in the season, there were issues. The timeouts were used to make sure that everybody was on the same page, using that wristband, minimizing verbiage. In that Houston game, guys weren't lined up properly. So communication has been an issue this entire season for the offense. That's been very public, and everybody's talked about it. So making sure that Jarrett's able to get in there, deliver the play call, be clean with his voice. When he's up at the line of scrimmage, clean. Everybody knows a snap count. All of this stuff is going to be important. And everybody has a different snap count, a different cadence.
For sure.
So when there's a different voice in there, it's a little bit different. So making sure everybody's on the same page and they know what to do, that's going to be key in the prep work this weekend and ready for our Chargers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we saw the injury report a little bit earlier in the show. Cortland Sutton, coach, said he's still in concussion protocol. Hopefully he progresses each day here. But, that would be big if Jared's able to have Cortland out there with him.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, don't know how that will.
Cortland's that kind of guy where, hey, it's third down.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some pressure coming. Where's big number 14? I'll just throw it up to him, see if he can make a play. And, when you're the backup quarterback coming in, you need your teammates to help you out.
Yeah.
The running game is going to be important, making sure that he has enough time back there to diagnose what he's seeing from the defense. And then having guys like Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Marvin Mims, these guys are going to have to help him out there and make a play. Sometimes on offense, it's about a guy just making a play. We've seen Cortland Sutton do that a lot this year where, his 10 touchdowns have been huge. Right. Sometimes you just got to make a play out there, and having a guy like 14 really helps.
Absolutely. Yeah, Phil, head coach Sean Payton talked today about just how much he wants to win in these final two games, and I know Justin Simmons talked about it too. How critical do you think it is to just finish the season strong here and get these 2 wins, especially with this being the last game at home this season? I
do think that it's really important. A home game or not, but I think what's important is that during the 5-game winning streak this year, Sid, there was a real strong belief that the Broncos had turned a page.
Yeah.
And that things were growing and building and improving. And sort of, one of the themes for this Broncos team has been sort of climbing this mountain this year, doing the hard stuff to make sure that you're doing things the right way, going that extra mile. There was this real belief that the Broncos had changed things around. And I think that if you end the season with a bunch of losses, like say for this Broncos team, it would be 5 losses in 6 weeks.
In 6 weeks, right.
If they're not able to pick up the next 2, then it sort of puts a damper on all the things that they've been able to accomplish this year.
Definitely.
And so, Sid, you were there in the locker room a couple of weeks ago when we were talking to Jerry Jeudy, and we were saying, hey, this team was, what was it? They were 7-7 a couple of years ago when Teddy was here.
Right,
and he
back
was
in 2021.
Yeah, and he was like, we were?
I didn't remember. I couldn't remember back then
either.
You
don't really remember it because the way the season ended.
Yeah. It didn't feel like, you're right.
They lost the last couple of games that year, and so it doesn't feel as good as it was at one point there. So, and then that happened 1 year with Vance Joseph too, where this team was 500, lost the final 4 games of the season, and you just don't remember all the good things that happened.
Right?
I think if this Broncos team can go out there, win the final 2 games, games, end the season with a winning record, really get the monkey off their back in several different areas. You know, that would mean a winning record in the division if they can win these last two. Certainly that Raiders game, if they're able to finally beat the Raiders. They were already able to win a couple of primetime games this year, beat the Chiefs this year. If you're able to finish the season strong, I think then there is that belief that, look, things have changed. There's a different culture around here. Everything is on the up and up, even though maybe you're wondering, okay, what the future looks like here at the quarterback spot. There would be a real strong sense of, this thing got turned around. And, you know, talking about the quarterback position, a lot of people are speculating, okay, what does this mean for Russell Wilson? What's the future going to look like? Sean Payton made it very clear on Wednesday that this was just a decision about now. They're just trying to focus on trying to win this game, and he hopes that making a move like this will help provide that spark. That's all. You know, he didn't say, he says he has regular conversations with Greg Penner and George Payton, but they haven't talked about the future here with Russell Wilson at the quarterback spot. So he didn't want to get into any of that stuff. So he said, this is just a decision about now. And I think this Broncos team really hopes to win. And, you know, you felt that it was genuine when when Sean Payton was talking about that today. He's like, look, we all want to desperately win these games. So I believe in when they say they want to win, they want to finish with a winning record. They want that positivity heading into the offseason.
Absolutely. I agree. Hopefully they pick up these next 2 wins, Phil. Appreciate you coming on the show today.
I just went on a rant, didn't I?
know,
you
did, but it was good.
Like, getting fired up here.
I feel the passion.
Yeah, thank you, Sydney. A lot to get to here. We didn't even talk about K-Jack.
You're right.
Yeah, so a lot going on here. The busy final 2 weeks for the Broncos.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Broncos Now, Broncos Country. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll meet you right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube for another episode tomorrow. I will see you all then.